Coming to you live from the palatial studios of PBJ Productions. Welcome to Patrick and BJ Talk Real Estate, where we talk about life, the universe, and everything as it relates to real estate. Hey everybody, it's BJ.
And Patrick.
And we're back talking all things real estate. And Patrick, guess what?
Oh, what's that? What's new now?
Well...
yeah, hold your breath.
Yeah. So we are apparently on a little bit of shaky ground when it comes to short-term rentals in the province.
Shaky ground? Ooh, tell me more.
Wow. You know, there's a very serious push and consideration in the province right now to remove short-term rentals. I presume the thought is that this is somehow going to alleviate or help alleviate the housing crisis and the rental market.
Okay, so I know, like, clearly it's getting more expensive to live in BC, right? Mm-hmm. Real estate prices are going up, rental prices are going up, and it's difficult out there, right? So I can understand. What did they do last November? They wanted to make condos with age restrictions more accessible to people. So if it was 40 plus, 20 plus, 19 plus, all those were eliminated to try to alleviate.
Yeah.
See how that worked?
Oh yeah,
that didn't work at all, right?
Not work. No. What I guess the one thing that did work, maybe, is that there are no longer rental restrictions except for the short-term rental restrictions on condos.
Right, exactly. So every condo out there is rentable right now.
Right.
So,
and the only age restriction we have now is 50 and over.
And that hasn't, 55. So even that in the next, it hasn't even been a year for that to like really come to market where it hasn't alleviated the rental market.
Yeah.
So now they're looking at, because they keep calling it a crisis, and you know, a crisis is like an acute problem.
Yeah.
Right? Like, what was it for the fires in Hawaii?
Sure.
All of a sudden, that's that's a disaster. That's an emergency.
Yeah.
That's
or Kelowna here.
Or Kelowna. A lot of different.
It's an immediate.
It's an immediate problem, right?
Yeah.
We have a chronic problem. We should stop calling it a crisis because everything turns out to be a crisis on the news.
Right.
Right.
Well, and it's an ongoing thing too, right? This is not a first time talking about how are we going to take care or alleviate the housing crunch and the price of property and the cost of rentals and the availability of rentals. I'm going to say again, and I've said this on our channel before, that the first thing that you can do is make it easier for builders to build.
Oh, yeah. Well, and I've said it before, where like Victoria, Vancouver, and Toronto takes the longest to build.
Right.
What condo building was finally approved in
10 years. 10 years
in Oak Bay.
Oak Bay. It took 10 years for this condo project to get approved in Oak Bay.
And I don't know the details, like if it went back because the city wanted some like this is what they wanted to see. And then maybe the community wanted to see, and it just keeps getting sent back for like a new draft, right?
Yeah.
And that costs money.
Sure.
And not just as an example, there's one on Wharf Street that took 10 years to get approved.
Right. Yeah.
And it was like over $1 million of investment. Not even the land.
Yeah.
Not even buying the property. This is just like the fees to get through this city.
Sure.
You know, if that's like architects, designers, time, all of those things, right? So we should cover what are the proposed changes that are happening by May 1st next year. So they want to, for everybody that's non-compliant for a short-term rental, to increase the penalties. Currently, if you're in contravention of the penalty, or a contravention of compliance, so it could be it's most likely zoning is what they're non-compliance to.
Okay.
It'll be $1,000 a day. So they want to up that to $3,000, and then they have like
a day that you have it rented, or for every day that you have it. Period.
I will see, but that's what I think as long as you're operating, they will. But if you don't have a customer, well, then you're not in contravention, right?
Yeah.
So $1,000 a day to $3,000 a day, and for Victoria, there's about what is it, 1,600 non-conforming grandfathered units out there. I don't know if they're all in operation, but that's how many there are. Like out of like the 23 buildings that used to have allowed transient zoning. So people bought these with the idea like they're gonna rent it out, you know, a weekend at a time, a week at a time, or whatever it is, and make their money that way, right? So, what's the other one? So they wanna, and this is already in the bylaws for single-family houses. So if you look at Airbnb, you'll see full houses available to be rented on a short-term basis.
Yeah.
The thing is, that's already in a contravention of local bylaws. So that'll fall under allowable home-based businesses. So those businesses are only allowed if it's your primary residence. I've talked about this before.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
This is, I can't believe I have to explain this. And yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, you know, years ago, I remember coming here and for a visit, and we ended up in Broadmead. So rented the whole house.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. The whole thing. So it was, I don't know how many bedrooms, 3 stories, big house. So what happens to that person now if they're in contravention period? If anybody's in their home.
Well, if it's a longer than a 30-day period, you become a tenant.
Okay.
Right. So the rule that they're proposing, and this is conflicting with other laws already. So they want the province wants to limit short-term rentals and banning under 90 days. But you can you can become a tenant on a month-to-month tenancy, and let's say after 2 months you say, "Oh, I can't stay here anymore."
Right.
Now you're technically under the 90 days. You gave your 1 month's notice, or after 1 month, maybe you don't like the neighborhood, or you got a job opportunity, and you got to bounce.
Yeah.
So now that person is in contravention. The operator, the landlord. So I think that's going to be conflicting. That also conflicts with the Strata Property Act, where when rentals are allowed, the bylaw will say no rentals under 30 days.
Right.
And I've talked about this.
But if you're downtown, I'm just thinking there's the areas downtown that are zoned for short-term rentals.
But not anymore.
That's going to change.
No.
That's already disappeared.
That's already disappeared 5-6 years ago. So this is perfect timing because I knew I was going to talk about this.
Yeah.
So the ones that purchased units that had transient zoning, and then Victoria pulled the carpet out from under them.
Right.
These people are on borrowed time.
Yeah.
Those people were grandfathered. Grandfathered. This is a very loose term that is not, I don't think is a really like legal term. It's just a term used to explain this. So those people are allowed to continue operation until one or two things happen. If you sell the unit, that's it. I don't think that grandfathering goes to the next owner. So if you were renting and your condo building was you had a rental in there, long-term rental, has nothing to do with short-term rentals, and then the Strata Council says, or everybody votes to say, hey, we have too many rentals, we have to limit the rentals, or we want to get rid of them altogether. And now, but you have a tenant in there on a month-to-month agreement. As soon as that tenant leaves, you can't rent it out again. You're grandfathered until
I got it.
that tenant is done. So if or pet restrictions, that dog is in there, it's like 300-pound dog, I'm exaggerating. And then all of a sudden, you're not allowed to have dogs anymore, or they have a size restriction, and that dog passes away, you can't replace that dog with another one like it. So you're grandfathered up to a certain point, right?
Yeah.
So here we go. So Victoria, a grandfather clause stipulates that the property owners who already legally operate a short-term rental as a business will be allowed to continue, but will lose the status if they are not operating for a 6-month period.
Okay.
That takes 1 winter if you don't have anybody. The only short-term rentals that will be allowed will be within the principal residence of the owner, 1 or 2 bedrooms in houses or condos. This is already in the bylaws.
That's already there, yeah.
That's already in the bylaws. All operators will have to purchase a business license, insurance, and all these other kind of things. So everybody who's invested invested in short-term rentals in those buildings, those 23 buildings that are downtown Victoria, 1,600 units approximately. All of those people have been on borrowed time. This isn't new when it comes to downtown Victoria.
Yeah.
It's either I know many of them are, they don't live in Victoria. They live far away and they have it operated here. But, you can't just stick your head in the sand for your investment. So, and for real estate, I bet you those people made money for a while. Yeah. But that doesn't mean the same real estate will always make you money.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
It's not in perpetuity. Just because I've got a hotel room in one of these condo buildings, that your luck isn't going to run out. Right? You don't always make money on real estate.
Yeah.
So, but it's not the end of the world. Of course, they paid a premium for those properties, and now they can still, and that could be years ago. If you bought something more recently, maybe that's a little bit harder to recover.
Yeah.
But I could see some of those rentals. Well, the purpose of the province is to bring more of those units either to market or to rent. This isn't a new problem. If you had a condo that doesn't have one of these grandfathered transient zonings, which people have been operating, the stratas need to enforce the bylaws that they already have in the standard schedule of bylaws.
Okay.
So, and I can point it out to you. I don't know exactly what the number is, but what you're looking for is no commercial operation is to be operated in a residential property, in a condo. But obviously, if you have a home-based business, maybe you can have a roommate or you can rent a room out. But I would refer back to that particular strata's bylaws and zoning.
Yeah. So I guess bring it back to where we are today. What do the time frames look like? We're talking about the 1st of May.
1st of May, yeah. So what is that? That's 7 months, 8 months?
Yeah.
Yeah. There's some exceptions that they're going to have as well, other than the primary residence. And I think this is really speaking to residentially zoned properties, and not something that's a recreationally zoned or already hotel zoned.
Yeah.
I want to talk about, I don't think we really have timeshares here, but we have fractional ownership where you can buy 1 week of a month in a shared property.
Right.
Right. Like the building right next to us is like that.
Yeah.
And then you could either use it or you could put it back into a rental pool for your week of ownership.
Sure. Yeah.
So, but obviously there's a couple other buildings like that where it is allowed.
So here's what I think. I don't think it's going to solve the problem. I don't think it's going to actually alleviate the situation. It's going to cause probably some angst and hardship for a whole lot of property owners.
Yeah.
And you're going to see potentially, you're going to see a bunch of condos in the same buildings in downtown Victoria going on the market.
I think we'll have a slight increase. I bet you people will go to rent long term. I think that will actually happen. Especially if somebody's bought a while ago and they bought with cheap money.
Yeah.
Low interest rates.
That's true. Yeah. Depending on when they bought. Yeah.
I could see the rents have gone up in the last 2 years significantly, right? So they might still cover their bases to think for Victoria, just wait till the property appreciates again. Maybe you don't make such a great monthly income.
Yeah.
But if you're looking long term, you either move into it when you retire or you cash out and that's part of your retirement, let's say.
Yeah. Thing is, to me, the condos are pretty small. Normally,
what is it? The Janyan building?
Yeah.
They're less than 300 square feet.
Or 400 square feet, something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a pretty small condo to retire in.
Well, yeah, you're right.
Right.
So is it realistic to put those kind of? Well, I guess that's what it's going to be.
I don't.
No parking spot.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be good. I don't think it's.
You don't even have enough room to do a workout.
Yeah, I really don't think it's going to be positive. What the plan is here and the implications, I don't think are going to resolve anything. Maybe it looks good. Maybe it looks like they're being politically expedient and trying to do something. But I think we've seen thus far the government's attempt to legislate the housing market has not worked.
In every which way.
Yeah.
in every single manner, it's going to fail.
Right. So I don't expect that suddenly this is going to work.
No. And we said it before, it would have to be like some outside economic pressure where unemployment would increase and the sales would slow right down.
Yeah,
for any sort of real drastic change in the prices, which I don't expect with the amount of immigration.
Yeah, I'm going to come back to
coming our way.
I'm going to go back to make it easier for the builders and developers to do what they do.
I'll go one step further, and I totally agree. I think every municipality, Vancouver, Victoria, Toronto, should not expedite recklessly, but there's so much red tape going on. They need to sort themselves out somehow. I'm sorry to everybody who works really hard in the municipalities. I know, and I know everybody's trying to do a great job, but somebody needs to crack the whip.
But 100%, that's exactly what I'm getting at.
Yeah,
I think if to deal with the housing issue, there's a problem of making it reasonable for the builders and developers, not waiting 10 years and spending $1 million to get to the approval state. You haven't even broken ground.
Those are some of the extreme examples. But it's it's like 3-4 years, maybe 5 years in Victoria.
Yeah,
for like a big projects, right? Yeah.
And I'm not saying don't do due diligence. I'm just saying there's got to be a way to expedite the process.
I know now we're talking about like this turned into an affordable housing kind of like segment, right? Be like, well, the province is throwing money at the municipalities to like help support them make these improvements by doing things electronically. The province is for provincial permits, which affect like less than 1% of the permits or development processes, and that has to do with like archaeological things.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So, anyways, and then the federal government's throwing money at the provinces as well. But it's like, well, unless the federal government, the federal government right now controls the demand. And we're gonna have another segment that's sort of related to this.
Yeah.
Is immigration. So if our immigration exceeds the amount of units we can build for people to live in, then we're always going to have a higher demand, right? I talked about it before. There was a report, I forget which economist, I think it was our BCRAA, Brendan. He was saying in the next 5 years we need to build 120,000 units a year in BC, and it was like 1990 something. Like the most we ever did was 40, and we averaged about 30,000 units a year. So we're not even close to this.
Yeah.
So, unless there's like everybody's on the same page, what is the government? Sorry, government people. It's like, you have the left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing, and you're both trying to achieve the same thing. It's really tough.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's not, I don't say it in a way like against immigration, like my parents immigrated, your parents immigrated.
No, obviously, I guess too.
And you.
Yeah.
Like everybody pretty much is from somewhere else except for our Indigenous people, right? So, nobody's against any of that. Just like maybe we just need to slow down a little bit. But I understand there's an average amount of equity and money that comes with every immigrant to Canada.
Right.
So I know that drives the economy in one way as well. So, but that's my. Okay, I've had my piece.
Yeah, I guess at the end of the day, what does this all mean? It means that if you own short-term rentals in BC, expect to see some things change. I think we made it pretty clear how, what we think about that. And the fact that I don't think it's going to solve the issue.
Think about it right now. We have 2,500 listings. That's single families, half duplexes, land still included in that, and condos, townhouses, right? 2,600.
Right.
And there's 1,600 non-compliant. Let's say half of those go to long-term rentals. The other half continue to operate until they get caught, right? Because we've all, like we were saying earlier, there's been all sorts of non-compliant. I'm not talking about the grandfathered ones. I'm talking about the ones that at least half of what you see on, let's say, the Airbnb app are non-compliant.
Sure.
How's our enforcement doing for the city of Victoria? I'm not even counting the other municipalities yet.
Yeah, and yeah, for sure. Enforcement is the issue.
We don't have enough resources
100%.
to do much about it anyways.
100%. Yeah.
Right.
But yeah, I have some questions, but I'll have to think about it. And we'll come back. We're already way over time today, I think. So if we start going now, we'll be here for another half hour. So
I got a half hour left in me for this.
Okay. Yeah. Well, we'll hit it another day. But thank you for joining us today. Please take a moment and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. Just helps us with growing the channel. We're working towards getting over 100 subscribers and then 1,000. But help be part of that with us, and take a minute, like the video. That helps us as well. And if you have any comments, please feel free to put them down there. We're happy to relate to whatever you need or have questions about. And if you have questions, certainly reach out. Right?
Yeah, if you have specifically for Victoria, Southern Vancouver Island, if you have questions about selling real estate or buying real estate, we're always available for that. And if you're not in the area, we can always recommend our trusted colleagues that live across the country that we've met through conferences and that we've met that we can recommend to you as well.
All right. Well, thank you. We'll see you next time.
Catch you in the next video.